to talk about this. Mexico was a developing country. Never before in history has there been an alliance, a trade alliance of two G7 highly industrialized countries and a developing country. And I tell you something you may not know. They didn't want us in there. They didn't want us in NAFTA. The American position was that we want a hub and spoke. We want
2 agreements.
We want a free trade agreement with Canada, then we want a free trade agreement with Mexico, and we're going to be in the middle of this.
How did you overcome that?
Well, I went down to Washington, I went to the Oval Office, and I talked to Bush. And he gave me the standard arguments. I'll tell you exactly what was said. He gave me the standard arguments about it. And then he said, he had a wonderful USTR, Carla Hills. She was tough and she was able and so on. And she said, George says to me, well, Brian, he said, Carla Hills thinks that this is the way to go for the United States and we'll continue to do bilateral arrangements. But I said, George, you're going to conclude a deal with Mexico. You already have a deal with me. Canada is a sovereign nation. We, in good faith, signed a deal with you. You can go ahead now and sign another deal with Mexico that has the effect of vitiating provisions of our free trade agreement. And I'm not there. I don't have a clue what's going on. You can't do this. There's got to be a trilateral agreement here. And he said to me, well, Brian, all I can tell you is Carla's opinion is what I've given you. And I said, George, I don't give a shit about Carla's opinion. I'm concerned about your opinion. You are the head of the United States. I am the head of a sovereign country called Canada. And we are going to be in those negotiations. Otherwise, you could cripple the benefits of the free trade agreement that are coming. So, my mother used to tell me, Brian, if you talk like that, I have to wash your mouth out with soap. You know? But I felt she'd forgive me for that one. And that's what happened. That's how we got in. And what was even hilarious about it almost is that when I got back, I was accused by some people in the House of Commons of wanting to, I was kind of like the leader of this. Canada was leading I wanted it so badly, you see. And so history is not always reported accurately. That's what happened. And I think that the NAFTA has turned out to, the other thing that was mentioned that may interest you is that Bush was a great leader. And he said to me in the Oval Office, you know, Brian, we got this developing country, and ideally, if we do things right, the United States and Canada can provide markets and jobs for young Mexicans to such an extent so that 30 years from now, when we're sitting here, that the young Mexicans will want to stay at home, not come to the United States or Canada for employment. The opportunities, the economic opportunities are going to be there. This year is the first year in modern history where more young Mexicans returned to Mexico than came to the United States. And that was another, modernized countries. When you look at we don't just have free trade. We got obligations in terms of our foreign aid and helping developing countries and so on. And that was part of, for example, that whole thing that culminated in the fight for Mandela. It was all parcel of that attitude. And so, thanks to George Bush and his strong and steady leadership on this, and able to bat off his own advisors, it's turned out very advantageously for all of us.
So I have one very quick last question, and that is, free trade in the 80s and 90s was a controversial issue, but now there's no debate around it. It's a good thing. Yeah. Is there an issue today that you look at and say to yourself, it's maybe controversial today, but 30, 40 years from now, it's going to be accepted following the same formula and path that NAFTA and trade followed for Canada?
Well, I think what the Trudeau government is doing now, is starting now, this is going to be huge. This is huge because, this could lead us into an economy of $3 or $4 trillion a year. You can imagine a country with, at that time, with say 40 million people, this kind of an explosive economy. This is part of it. Another challenge for Canada in the coming years is going to be productivity. Enhanced productivity is the only way that a nation creates new and genuine wealth. We are slipping behind our chief competitors in a significant way in productivity. And the problem with it politically is it's so unglamorous. It's got no sex appeal, dear old productivity. And, we ought to find a way to dress this up and take her out to dance. Because it is the big challenge for the Canadian economy coming forward. There are all kinds of things that pop up when you least expect it. That's what you get paid to do as Prime Minister. But there it is.
Well, I on behalf of the folks in the room here and myself and Canada 2020, thank you for your time this morning and your comments. I think we have a thank you from Victor shortly thereafter, but a round of applause, please, for the Right Honourable.
Thank you.